Hello, my name is goukigod, and in this video we're going to be taking a second look at Overwatch to see if all the additions and changes they've made since launch have actually made it a better game or not. So Overwatch launched back in May of 2016, and despite being a new IP born from the ashes of a failed MMO project, it's actually ended up being one of the biggest shooters of the year with over 20 million unique accounts created. Now this is even more impressive when you consider that Overwatch is the first-person shooter that Blizzard has ever made. What's interesting about Overwatch's reception is that despite other AAA shooters like Titanfall and Battlefront being criticised for not having a single-player campaign, Overwatch has managed to avoid the same ridicule despite being equally light on content. At launch, both critics and players universally praised the game, and since then it's been nominated for a variety of Game of the Year awards. Blizzard have also managed to build a healthy community around the game through a combination of free DLC, regular communication, and one of the most elaborate ARGs in recent memory. The DLC strategy is similar to that of Grand Theft Auto Online's by providing all of the maps, modes, and heroes for free, and this has undoubtedly been a key component in keeping players coming back regularly. They've also been pretty transparent, involving the community in discussions about their plans for the game, and posting regular update videos discussing the reasons behind some of the changes that they've made. On top of this, Blizzard have also been busy behind the scenes setting up an official Pro League, so the post-launch support for the game has been second to none. So bearing all this in mind, the question is, how different is the game compared to launch? Is it a vastly improved product? And if you haven't purchased it, is it worth your money? So to start, let's cover what's new in the game. So Blizzard have added a lot of new content, but the most significant would be the seasonal events that they've been running. So far there's been two of these limited time events, the Summer Games and Halloween Terror. Both provided new modes that were only playable for the duration of the event. They also included a bunch of exclusive loot such as skins, sprays, intros and emotes, which were only available while the event was active. Blizzard have been updating the game with new permanent loot outside of these events too, which can be unlocked at any time through regular play or with real money. There have been 2 new stages added so far, with a third planned for December, and there are 2 new heroes as well, Anna, who is a support sniper, and Sombro, who's an offensive character with some unique stealth abilities. Now the rest of the roster have also seen regular balance changes, and the purpose of these changes is keeping all the characters viable. Some of these changes have been pretty significant too, and completely change how the character is played. Symetra is probably the most extreme example, as she was given new abilities and a new ultimate that radically changes how she's played. There have also been a bunch of new modes added on a regular basis. Now in the past these were presented as part of the weekly brawl, but this section has now been called the Arcade and includes a bunch of different modes such as a 1v1 and a 3v3 and a handful of other modes as well. Competitive play was obviously added shortly after launch, and like with most other things, it's seen various revisions, most notably to the ranking system. So in total, Overwatch now has 15 maps, 23 heroes and a bunch of new modes, with more heroes, maps and potentially new modes in the pipeline. Now with all the changes to the game, you might expect there to be some issues and bugs crop up with all the various different patches that they've done, but thankfully this isn't the case, and the game hasn't really had any performance issues or significant bugs introduced. And aside from the DDoS attacks a little while back, the game has been pretty stable overall. One potential issue that's been raised because of all the balance changes and updates to the various characters is that it can make staying on top of the game's meta quite difficult. This is probably not an issue for most regular players, but it could be confusing for the casual audience. It's also a possible concern for the game at a pro level, as keeping the viewers up to date with all the latest balance changes and fixes could be complicated. It's still very early days though in terms of it being a serious esport, but it's definitely something that will need to be addressed at some point. Now the other thing that's definitely worth discussing at this point is the price point. A lot of games that were released at a similar time, such as Doom, have seen a significant price drop, but locally at least the price hasn't dropped dramatically unless you were lucky enough to pick it up in one of the Black Friday deals. So outside of a sale, chances are that you're going to be paying pretty close to retail for this game, so the question of whether it's better value now than at launch is a pretty valid one. With everything that I've just mentioned, there's a lot to take into consideration, but Blizzard have done an excellent job at maintaining engagement with well-timed events and a compelling progression system. Establishing a strong community has clearly been an important focus since launch, which puts the game in a good position long-term in terms of people still playing it. Ultimately, what Overwatch offers from a content point of view is still slim compared to its peers, and if you were to judge it purely for its level of content, then no, it doesn't compete with games like Call of Duty, Battlefield or Titanfall 2. On the other hand, I've easily sunk the most amount of hours into this game than any other this year. Yes, it's lighter on maps and modes, but it's also one of the most compelling and fun games I've played in 2016. So in answer to the question, do I think Overwatch is worth it now? Absolutely. At launch, I certainly had my doubts, but with everything that I've covered in this video, I definitely think that Overwatch's quality level and level of content has been elevated. I think that it's safe to assume that Blizzard will continue to support this game long term, and thus far they've promised all future DLC to be free, so there's potentially a lot to look forward to. Anyway, that's my thoughts on Overwatch. If you've been playing the game and enjoying it, or even if you haven't been enjoying it, I'd like to know what your thoughts are and what kind of content you'd like to see Blizzard release in the future. Anyway, that's all I've got for you in this video. I want to thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'm out.